This week, Home Mars is sponsored by Aerobus Fitness Equipment, the best way to lose those COVID pounds, and by Abacus AI, an end-to-end MLOps and AI platform that you have to try. All right. Hello, everybody. Here we have Tesla Full Self-Driving Beta 11.4.7. And man, this isn't V12, but it's getting damn good. So let's go drive for a little bit. Talk about some of the latest revelations with V12 and everything that's going on. So there's a major rewrite of the software underway, FSD V12. That looks like it's going to come out before the end of the year. And it should be a dramatic improvement over the system we have now. It should be able to pick up things that weren't explicitly programmed in, learn all kinds of behaviors with a greater degree of nuance than the sort of rules-based approach allows for. You're going to see a lot more human-like behavior. But meanwhile, we have V11. It's available to people in North America. They can use it, and it's pretty great. I think a lot of people sort of misunderstand FSD. They don't know how to think about it. They think it's only useful if there's robo-taxis, and if there's no robo-taxis, then it's not useful. But it's already extremely useful today. Just in, for example, eliminating the need for me to manually push the controls to do what the car can already figure out I need to do. Like, for example, here, reading the speed limit signs, merging into the lane. If the car can already predict what the right control action is, then why do I need to do it? So, FSD is just super underestimated. You know, if you do an estimate for just the amount of revenue brought in directly from the sale of FSD or subscription, it's probably billions of dollars a year by my best estimate. Okay, here we've got the car slowing down to 29 miles an hour, not good. So I'm gonna have to increase the speed. So, same old problem I've been having for a long time with it reading the truck speed limit sign. Okay, here's another one. Oh, yeah, see, again, it read the truck speed limit sign, slow down. Disappointing that this is still happening after 3 years, but hopefully this is the thing V12 is going to be able to address. That it'll be able to look at the road, look at the other cars, and figure out what to do. Right now, if there is other traffic on the road, it won't slow down. It'll say maintaining flow for speed of traffic. But in situations like that where you're alone, it can still have that issue where it reads the truck speed limit sign. So that's not great. Hopefully they'll be able to fix that soon. But, you know, given how many years it's been, I don't know if it's going to happen with the current approach. It probably, you know, needs V12 to be able to pick up these sorts of things. But, you know, regardless of these issues, though, I do have to, you know, make corrections, increase the speed, that sort of thing. And it would have picked up another speed limit sign if I just let it keep going. There's nothing wrong with driving slow, except for, you know, other cars might get annoyed and you won't get there as fast. But, you know, so you do have to make corrections from time to time, things like that. But, you know, most of what I have to do has just been completely eliminated. I can still drive, I can still take the wheel when I want to, but I don't have to. And if I get incapacitated, if I get distracted, if I have a medical emergency, if any number of things happen, the car has the capability to predict what the right controls would have been in absence of me actually executing them. So this is really important. Now, in terms of FSD, let me clean the windshield up here because I just got the car washed, and sometimes there's like lint from the towel or something on the camera. Anyway, so I was saying FSD is not a step function. A lot of people think it's this 0 to 1 thing where the value is just 0 and then all of a sudden it's just massively valuable. That's not really how any product ever evolves. It's really more like an exponential. As it gets better and better, the amount of value increases exponentially. You imagine a system that you have to disengage every 10 seconds. Well, that would be pretty close to useless, right? But, then imagine a system that only has to disengage every minute. That would be slightly more useful. And then 10 minutes, an hour, right? So, and, the difference between a system that can go for an hour between disengagements is, vastly different than a system that can go, for example, 10 hours or 3 hours. So as it gets better and better, the usefulness skyrockets. And when it gets past the point where it can actually drive further than an average human without a crash and can operate driverlessly, then the value just skyrockets. But this is really an exponential function that has already started, not a step function that is yet to come. And you can already sort of model out how much revenue they're generating from this project, how much they're generating in earnings, and sort of project that out. And, I think it could grow 1,000 times from where it is in the next 10 years in terms of the revenue and earnings they generate from it. And I don't even think that's that crazy. Okay, so it did hit the brakes there. I'm not sure why. Possibly because it saw a car that wanted to make a left turn moving up a little bit. But, that was a little bit uncomfortable and unnecessary. But it recovered from it well. So this has already started. People are already using it. They're putting miles on it. They're getting a lot of use out of it. Is it as useful as if it were driverless? Of course not. But each step is a step to driverless, right? You can't say that driverless is this great thing, but all these steps to get there are useless. They're, since the early days of autopilot, when I got my 2018 Model 3, it was just running basic autopilot, and all it could do was just drive in one lane. It couldn't even do auto lane change on city streets. And still I used it on city streets, because in LA you have a lot of these just big long roads that have lane markings. And so you could still use, autopilot, which was really designed for highways on city streets. And it wouldn't respond to traffic lights, it wouldn't respond to stop signs, it didn't do any of that back then. All it would do is just look at the lane lines and just drive within the lane lines. That's it. And even just with that basic functionality, I was using it on city streets, like this one. Because it was useful to just have the car sort of take control. Even though you needed to watch a lot more than today. Watch for things like traffic lights and stop signs, whereas now the system handles them automatically. It was still useful. Now in that time, that same 2018 Model 3 has gone from not even being able to change lanes to being able to change lanes on city streets, being able to handle highway interchanges, being able to auto lane change automatically to follow the destination on highways, being able to handle traffic lights and stop signs, and then now to be able to do, complete drives without any input from me in some cases. So the evolution is massive. The increase in usefulness is massive. To the people who just say, oh, it's not driverless, and just ignore how much it's gotten better as an autopilot user, I just have to laugh at those people. I have access to Waymo, I have access to Cruise in San Francisco. I've tried them both extensively. Driverless is not a fantasy. It's real. It's working in limited areas with HD mapping and LiDAR and some of these other different technologies that make it a little bit more difficult to scale to the whole world, but they've really proven that you actually can operate a driverless car pretty reliably with today's technology. And the state of the art in AI is just taking off. So I think it looks very promising. The people who doubt that driverless is possible are going to end up looking very foolish. I think that's pretty clear to me now. But, just look at the sales today. Tesla Model Y is the best-selling EV in the world. It's actually the best-selling car in the world. And the Tesla Model 3, also one of the best-selling EVs in the world. Right after, Tesla Model 3 was the best-selling EV in the world until the Tesla Model Y came and took its place. People love those SUVs. But why? I think autopilot's a big part of it. People who use autopilot, they get addicted. They don't want to go back to a car that doesn't have it. I can't go back to a car that doesn't have functionality like this. So you may not see it. You just see it as, record sales of Teslas. They don't tell you necessarily that, well, a big part of the reason why we had these record sales is because of autopilot. But I think autopilot and what the Tesla AI team is doing, the fact that your car gets these software updates that just get better and better over time, people really don't appreciate probably how much of Tesla's financial performance is really driven by the differentiation of this product. So it's much more material to the company's financial performance today than people realize. And as it improves, they have opportunities to monetize it through the attachment of the FSD package to new vehicles, through the over-the-internet upgrade of existing cars that are out there, millions of them, to the FSD software. They can pay over the air, charges their credit card, and it just activates on the car instantly. Or a subscription model where you just pay $200 to access it for a month. So as the software gets better, as word sort of spreads, they have the opportunity to monetize it today. You don't need any regulatory approval. You don't need it to have some big breakthrough. No, they have been selling this technology for 10 years. Okay, 10 years. 2014 was when the first Tesla Autopilot supplied by Mobileye, Mobileye Autopilot 1, 10 years ago. Okay, so that there's nothing new that needs to be done here in terms of regulatory approval or anything like that. This is working. There's a well-established sort of regulatory framework for looking at it. They have well-established relations. They have the opportunity to ship this to customers, millions of customers, monetize it using the cars they have on the road today. And they're throwing an enormous amount of compute at this. Now, obviously, as the cars become driverless, you're going to have many times more value than what you can sell as a monthly subscription or a purchase or something like that. That's obvious. But it's not going to happen everywhere in the world at the same time. There's going to be a phased rollout, between different cities, different countries, whatever. So it's not really going to look like a step function in revenue growth or earnings growth per se, right? It'll probably start with a small area or even the whole US and then expand to other markets. What you're really going to see is, more of a continuous function rather than a step function. So this is already happening to people who want to take a look. It's like ChatGPT, right? When they trained GPT, who noticed? Nobody. Programmers, nerds, AI practitioners, sure. They noticed, of course. But your average person, who reads the news, who knows about ChatGPT today, do they know about GPT? No. Then GPT-2, they actually released it, just anyone could download the model, I think. And did anyone care or notice about GPT-2? No. Now, what changed really between GPT and GPT-2 and GPT-3? Essentially, they just made the model bigger, continued to curate the data set. I'm simplifying, obviously, but it's the same thing, same idea, they just scaled it up, right? And then, really with GPT 3.5, that was the ChatGPT moment where now it got good enough that people started taking notice. And with GPT-4, it really gained a level of expertise and accuracy that sort of took it to the new level. So, okay, now you're getting to the point with GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 where people are really starting to use this in their applications. But even then, it's not that great. I mean, ChatGPT usage is sort of falling off a little bit. I think we're just sort of exploring what's possible with the applications and the API usage there. But all of that work they did from GPT, GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT 3.5, GPT-4 is all setting them up for really what's going to come next, GPT-5, GPT-6, leading down the road to essentially AGI, right? So you can't say that the work they did on GPT, GPT-2, GPT-3 was meaningless and didn't matter and was worthless, and only GPT 3.5 and 4 were useful, when it was the same development process essentially, right? So for great things, you have to work for a long time before it's achieved. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of hitting a wall and having to try something new. And that's definitely been the case with FSD. Okay, we're going around all these slow cars. I'm not really sure what their deal is, why everyone in this lane is so slow. But we do have to make a right turn in half a mile, so we will need to get back. Anyway, right, so GPT, they put a lot of work into it until they finally got it to the point where they had this ChatGPT moment. And everybody talks about the ChatGPT moment, but nobody talks about the years that they were working on the problem before that, when the results were really nothing to phone home about. And I think we're at a similar turning point here. Really, in many areas of AI, you're seeing a revolution. And I think it's definitely true here. What they're doing with the end-to-end system. This is really the biggest corner they've turned since the occupancy network. All right, we're making a right turn here. So don't underestimate what's going on here. We just saw the system drive me from my start point to my destination, and all I had to do was adjust the speed up because it read the truck speed limit sign as a speed limit sign that it had to follow. That's it. With a simple mapping fix that, if it just looked on some type of map database that had the speed, or keeping up with the flow of traffic, or really a minor change to the software, this could have been a completely zero input drive. Like most of my drives now are zero takeover, and many are zero input. So, with the zero input drive, and really with this drive, if I had not been in the seat, the car still would have gotten here just fine. Now, that doesn't mean that's a good idea, or that it's safe, or something I should do. But if I had not been here, if I had not done anything, the car still would have gotten to where it needed to go. With today's software on a Tesla from a few years ago, using the hardware 3 that first launched in 2019. And they're now shipping hardware 4 on their cars. They're now developing V12. This is V11. Honestly, guys, Tesla is super underappreciated in AI. What we just saw is extremely difficult. So, yeah, I think people are going to be really impressed with what they're seeing from not only V11, but V12. The effect of all this compute that's coming online, everything they're doing, it's going to have a noticeable effect on how quickly FSD is improving. And if it's already this good and has nearly 500,000 users, they've now driven over 440 million miles, probably more than 500 million miles by the time we report. I mean, I'm just really excited. So anyway, take care, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll make some more videos for you.